Protect your online security with over 60% off 2-year plans at NordVPN. See the link at the top of the description to get started.
Hello and welcome to the managerial special from the Arms Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savinger. With me as always is Mr. Daniel Coley. Today we're talking about another Yorkshire club. It's Sheffield Wednesday. They have hired Xisco Munoz as their new first team manager. He replaces Darren Moore. I just can't believe this. But yeah, he replaces Darren Moore after guiding Sheffield Wednesday promotion via the playoffs from League One to the Championship. But let's first talk about Darren Moore's sacking. This really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's a story that's had several components to it since. Obviously, let's be honest, if we go back to the second week of May, he was 90 minutes from the sack after that first leg against Peterborough, which none of us saw coming. He then became a hero within 2 weeks by winning the second leg 5-1 and on penalties, and then taking him up to the Championship. And over the 2 years, he's done a very solid job. They were unfortunate in the playoffs the first season in League One, and that was a club that he took over in very disappointing circumstances. Obviously, he took over just before they went down, had to rebuild the club, had to rebuild the team, and had to get the fan base back on side. And they played great football whilst doing so, which we know Darren Moore's teams generally do. Second season, scored goals galore, 96 points, still somehow didn't make the top two with a half-season unbeaten run. But then they won the playoffs, and you thought, look at this now. Sheffield Wednesday, they're coming up, a big club, massive momentum, everything's going in their favour. They're going to hit the ground running next season. And then, like a chainsaw, straight through it. And the tension was back. There was talk between the owner and the fans. And the thing that worries me the most out of this is now Chansiri coming out a week later and saying, Darren Moore wanted 4 times his money and that's the reason he's going. There's no way that is the end of that conversation. Whether he asked for 4 times or not, I don't know. But that is not going to be the whole conversation there, and it's not going to be the whole story. It's a very simple one that takes pressure off him because he was getting slated for a week beforehand. The problem is there's probably somewhere in between the two where it's broken down. But for Darren Moore, on the pitch, it's a very strange decision. I'm a fan of the new man that came in. I told you it was Watford's biggest mistake sacking him for a long time now, but yeah, just to hit the momentum like that, it just seemed a really weird thing and awful timing for it.
Yeah, I'm really lost for words on this one. No, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to take because Darren Moore is probably one of the nicest guys in football, especially in English football. And I feel personally he did not get Sheffield Wednesday relegated from the Championship.
Oh no, they were in big trouble when he went there. Yeah,
and it's not the players. Yeah, they were down there, but ultimately the points deduction they got them relegated. So let's not give Chansiri the benefit of the doubt here, because it's his fault that they got to League One, not the players. Because with the players and the points, they were safe. Derby would have gone down.
And that, if you remember, just before it, that long caretaker stint where he didn't appoint Darren Moore earlier to give him a chance to keep them up.
Yeah, because it was after
the Luton game.
After the Luton game, after the 3-2 game. But yeah, Darren Moore has done excellently well, like excellent. Fair play to obviously Ipswich and Plymouth, getting 100 points, blah blah blah. Unbelievable effort, and the debt he could have gone. Do you know what? I've taken the best I could, and somehow we've lost this game 4-0. I'm going because, as you said, fans were calling for him to go, but you have to give him respect. Fans obviously did give him respect after that game. Even if they lost the final, it wouldn't matter because
it was the greatest playoff comeback ever, wasn't it?
It's the greatest playoff comeback ever. You can't beat that apart from winning the final. But in the end, he deserves the respect. He deserves that chance to be back in the Championship, regardless of contracts. I don't buy Chansiri's statement whatsoever.
No,
whatsoever, because you wouldn't have got rid of it.
But we're in agreement. There's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, there's more to it than meets the eye. Don't get me wrong. And now they've lost a good manager, but let's talk about new man Xisco. Very brief statement on the Sheffield Wednesday club website. I'm sure he's got a press conference at the time of recording. Sheffield Wednesday are delighted to announce the appointment of Xisco Munoz as their first team manager. Spaniard, who gained promotion to the Premier League with Watford in 2020-21, takes charge of the Owls with immediate effect. That's it. Welcome to Hillsborough. That statement alone is worrying.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Hopefully, as you say, his press conference is due after. We'll get a few more answers, but we don't know the length of the contract. We don't know much behind the scenes, which isn't always a bad thing. Our club, Luton, have done that for a long time, but it's not the most gracious open arms welcome. I will say, though, and as you know, I've said it here before, Xisco did an unbelievable job at Watford, in my opinion. Firstly, he's a genius to last there for 10 months because not many managers managed to do that. He took them up from a position where they were on the cusp, but not close enough, and he took them there pretty comfortably. And if we all remember, he got sacked with them in 14th in the Premier League after 7 games. A very Watford-esque thing, but he was doing a solid job up there as well. I was impressed with him there, and I was a little bit surprised reading a bit of the reaction yesterday because there were a few Sheffield Wednesday fans asking for Watford fans' opinions on it, and they seem to remember him poorly and said tactically he was suspect and whatever else. But it's not the Watford team I remember under Xisco, if I'm being honest. I thought they were pretty good. Again, largely behind closed doors, so you're not going to work out too much from that in that championship winning season. But after that, his managerial record has been average, I guess, so it's pretty hard to work it out. What I will say is I think it's a better appointment than some of those who had been linked before. Obviously, we had that weird situation where someone made up on Twitter that Paul Ince was going and brought his odds into 2-1 on. And then a few others think Nathan Jones, Dean Smith, etc. I don't think it's the worst appointment of those, but I'm still not entirely confident. Of the 3 clubs coming up, for me, Sheffield Wednesday had the most to do because they've got an older squad in areas than some. They need a little bit more freshness. They need a few more additions than the other 2 for me. And they've lost a month of pre-season and the transfer window through searching for this manager and with Darren Moore going, which is making it all the more difficult for them.
I'll just go back to the first thing you said about what the fans' opinion on Watford fans have had 6 different managers, 6 different games.
They probably can't remember which one's which at this point.
So of course they're going to forget what Xisco Munoz's style is. Yeah, they're completely forgotten. But I don't know how Sheffield Wednesday, as you say, they've got to play catch up. They've got to, because as you said, I totally agree on what you said about the other 2 promoted sides, because they've got a structure, they've got a solid base, and they've got their own style that they want to do. Sheffield Wednesday got to go back into this league with no preparation whatsoever. Because what we are, 5th of July, season starts in a month? So he's got to find in a month, firstly, to get to know his players that he's got at the moment. 2, try and recruit, because obviously it's going to be a lot tougher than it was in League One. And 3, get that team to gel to the start of the championship season against Southampton.
Yeah, and I think probably one of the concerns with that as well, and there are a few concerns on this one, I guess unlike the Leeds one we did earlier today, there is a bit more work to be done in terms of the squad. There's a lot more building to be done. You're coming up to a new level. The other thing that worries me with Xisco is, one, from what we saw at Watford and a little bit of Huesca, his style isn't that similar to Darren Moore. So we are going to see a slightly more robust style of football, slightly different style. Are the players going to suit that when you look at the sort of style in a team, your likes of, I'm thinking off the top of my head of a Josh Windass, a Barry Bannon, is that style going to be suited to it? I'm not 100% sure or convinced on that. The other thing, I guess, is if Wednesday do start the season a bit poorer than you would expect, are they going to be able to deal with a relegation battle? Because you look at Xisco's managerial career, he managed a Tbilisi and a Watford side expected to win everything. He took over Huesca, yes, not after the best start, but they were mid-table, the rest of it. He's not managed sides that are expected to be down there. It's a very different thing. And obviously with Watford, he got sacked after 7 games in the Premier League, so he didn't get that experience. So I do worry on those fronts. Is the style of play going to suit the players? Is there then going to be a lot of recruitment, which in itself will take time to bed in? And then most importantly, look, they're playing a relegated side on the opening day. They've got 2 banana skin away games after that against sides that we probably expect to be in the bottom half. And then you go into September, and we mentioned it in the last manager special, Leeds United away in the Yorkshire Derby, and then the likes of Ipswich and Middlesbrough. It's not an easy start. And if you're trying to adapt at the same time, it could be a tricky first couple of months for Xisco to ride out. But for me, they've just put themselves on the back foot unnecessarily.
I think what Xisco also had is a background of team that has money, so they can recruit Udinese players. Where Sheffield Wednesday, I don't think will recruit as hard as probably what was obviously what Watford had done, but got to find that wheeling and dealing and try and get someone on free or make a low bid for a type player that's probably been in League One or League Two.
Yeah, it's going to be reliant on probably cheaper investment, and loans are going to be crucial for Sheffield Wednesday the first season. We see it so often for clubs coming up from the League One or clubs coming down from the Premier League. Getting those players from the top tier on loan can make the difference during a season. We've seen that ourselves at Luton last year as well, haven't we? So that's going to be a crucial part for them. But I guess this is a bit of a tricky one because I do quite like the manager from what I've seen of him, but I don't really know what to expect with Sheffield Wednesday. I feel like this is one that could go either way.
Do you think good manager, wrong club?
Maybe. Not even wrong club, wrong timing perhaps is probably the thing, because to follow that momentum after a promotion where you've come back in such spectacular circumstances, it's going to be a tricky act to follow. The fans are going to be expectant. They had a brilliant home record last year. They were scoring goals for fun. And if Xisco sets up in a bit more of a robust system, a bit more resolute and a deeper defensive line, are you going to get the fans on your back if you're not trying to take the game to the opposition every week? Because with Watford, they had a great team on the counter to nick 1, 2, 3-0. But for Sheffield Wednesday, they're not really going to be a counter-attacking side with the players they've got in their team at the moment.
Does Xisco see out the season?
Well, it's the age-old question, and we'll say the same thing as we say every time. The average lifespan of a manager is not a season. I think Daniel Farke at Leeds will make it a bit bigger. I'm not sure Xisco does. In my opinion, and I haven't decided yet where they're going to be, and recruitment could change this, I think they're going to be on the outskirts of a relegation battle. I don't want to give too much away. I think the bottom two, I'm pretty sure who they're going to be. And I think there's a battle of 4 or 5 for 22nd place. And I think Sheffield Wednesday, as it stands, might be one of them. Hopefully a few good players coming in, a couple of loan deals, they'll be able to push up the table. But for me, if you're in that dodgy zone in the second half of the year, there's always going to be a panicking chairman. And Chansiri has shown that hand before. So for me, I can see it being somewhere between January and March, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure it'll be a blinding success, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope they get a few good players in and Xisco can show what he did at Watford.
I think Xisco might get to November, December. I think they've got a very hard August and September, maybe the second international window, or maybe the third. Well, whatever. I think November, I would say. I'll keep forgetting it's no World Cup next year in November. I think November's not, in my opinion, but I hope he does well. But I worry about the background. It's all about the background always for me.
I'd like the club to stay up, but I'm worried it could go wrong, to be honest.
That's our thoughts on the appointment of Xisco as the new Sheffield Wednesday manager. Let us know down in the comments what you think of the appointment and how he will get on. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.